Hello to everybody, and thanks for joining us for our first show of the semester. I'm Hunter Williams.
And I'm Amanda Reynolds.
Amanda and I were talking before the show about how it feels like just a few weeks ago we were signing off on our final video of the spring semester.
That's right. It's hard to believe that we're beginning a new season of Up in the Air already.
It's hard for me to believe that too, but now that we're here, we have a fantastic first episode planned out for you guys.
We sure do. We'll have a visit from some of our fellow students in the Weather Risk Management Club, a feature about fall foliage and your climate outlook, as well as much, much more.
But first, we'd like to introduce two new members of the team. We have Nathan Flinchball as well as Casey Laheka.
We're thrilled to welcome Nathan and Casey to the show. Nathan will stop by later for the climate outlook, and Casey will make her debut next week.
But for right now, let's start with Update in the Air.
10 years ago, many lives changed forever. On August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina made landfall near New Orleans, Louisiana. Most of the devastation stemmed from the lack of accuracy of computer models several days out. According to a hydrometeorology professor at the University of South Carolina, with the increase of this powerful technology, such as numerical models and satellite sensors, we now have 5-day forecasts that are comparable to 3-day forecasts from 2005. One might question how we know that these models are more accurate than they used to be, but if you ask Professor Matthew Easton, the proof is in the numbers. Every year after the hurricane season is over, the National Hurricane Center does forecast verifications where they compare their forecasts to the actual hurricane paths. Information from the NOAA website shows a distinct improvement from the 5 to 10 year period. While there is still ample room for improvement in hurricane forecasting, looking back, we can see how far we've come.
An interesting new study out of the University of Georgia is helping to better our understanding of the urban heat island effect. For those of you who are not familiar with the urban heat island effect, the term describes how urban areas and the materials of which they are made can result in warmer temperatures than the surrounding rural areas. This study in particular looked into two main aspects of urban areas, the sprawl as well as the density. Diving even deeper into the process, members of the study looked into the morphology of certain urban areas or the patterns of the city's configurations and the process of the city's development. With all this in mind, the results of the study highlight the complexity of the urban heat island effect. Distinct patterns were not able to be determined. Instead, it was found that both sprawl and density contribute heavily to the urban heat island effect. Despite the complexity of the results, members of the study are hopeful that policies can soon be put into place that encourage building infrastructure in ways that help mitigate the urban heat island effect.
We've all heard about the severe drought in the Southwest, but what many people don't realize is that much of the United States is actually currently in a drought. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, at this time, nearly 52% of the U.S. is suffering from a lack of precipitation. As is shown by this map, California and the Southwest are in the most critical position, but areas such as the Gulf Coast as well as parts of the Northwest are seeing the impacts as well. For areas in the southern plains, the year started off quite wet with massive flooding in the late spring. That water excess has been all but erased with a 90-day deficit of nearly 10 inches of precipitation. Closer to home, on the East Coast, temperatures during the summer were higher than normal, especially towards the south. This, coupled with the lack of precipitation, has made it so many areas are in a time of moderate drought. Even here in Pennsylvania, there are many areas that are currently classified as abnormally dry. We'll be back in a moment with more. Thanks for joining us on Up in the Air.
We now are joined by members of the Weather Risk Management team. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Josh, can you describe the current drought scenario out in California?
California is in its 4th consecutive drought year. The most recent drought monitor just released last week shows that 46% of the state is in exceptional drought conditions and over 71% is in extreme drought conditions. Below normal precipitation is the reason that's led to this point. The majority of California precipitation falls during the winter months. Strong ridging out west the past few winters have caused warm and dry conditions and inhibited the amount of rain and snow that California received. This lack of precipitation is evident by simply looking at satellite images of the state. The Sierra Nevada mountains have noticeably less snow cover this year when compared to 5 years ago. Snowpack provides California around 1/3 of their drinking water. Furthermore, water reservoirs are drying up. Many of the reservoirs across the state are near 50% below their average capacity. All of these factors are causing a severe water crisis for California.
What efforts have been done to counter these effects?
At a policy level, Governor of California, Jerry Brown, issued an executive order this spring which called for a 25% reduction in overall potable urban water use statewide. This percentage equates to approximately 500 billion gallons of reduced water usage over the next 9 months. The order imposes significant cuts in water use on campuses, golf courses, cemeteries, and other large landscapes. Homeowners are also replacing 50 million square feet of lawns with drought-tolerant landscaping. Lifestyle changes are also required to deal with this tough time. People are encouraged to keep their showers to 4 minutes, and restaurants will only serve water to customers upon request.
I can definitely see how these changes must be difficult for people and businesses. How has the drought impacted golf courses specifically?
Golf courses are in a difficult situation out west. Not only do they have to deal with the shortage of water, but they have to deal with the moral responsibility of using so much water when it could be used for other purposes. An average 18-hole course uses 90 million gallons of water each year. That's enough water to fill 136 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And there are 866 golf courses in California. 2/3 of courses in California are still irrigated with drinking water. To keep lush fairways, some courses are spending upwards of $500,000 a year in water alone. Some courses have stopped watering areas out of play, and others have simply shut down. There are still other options for golf courses to take, as Scott will explain.
Golf courses can be seen as a luxury by many, but there is also a business that needs to stay afloat. One of the other options that courses can do is to use recycled water, also known as reclaimed water. This option can be pricey, and the amount of water reclaimed is marginal compared to that needed to water the entire course. A popular option is the turf reduction rebate program. Courses can receive $2 to $3 for every square foot of turf removed. Several areas can be removed around holes that will not affect the play. Tearing out 25 acres of turf can save around 15 million gallons of water per year. A different, more high-tech option is installing soil probes and smart sprinklers. These can measure the amount of moisture in the soil and let sprinklers know the exact amount of water each area needs. This helps to cover over watering, even though there is an array of options for courses to take. Not all can afford to take these altering measurements. As long as the drought continues, golf players are going to have to learn to adapt to the drier conditions. The phrase in the game may be, brown is the new green.
Thanks, guys, for stopping by.
Thanks for having us on the show this week.
We're proud to represent the Weather Risk Management Club and look forward to future segments from our other members.
Welcome back to the show.
It's getting to be that time of year again where the leaves begin to fall.
That's right, Ross Caruso has more on our transition from summer to fall.
It's that time of the year again. As we begin the transition of summer to fall, we begin to see some changes in the area. One of which stands out the most to us would have to be the changes in the colors of the leaves. As we all know, leaves get their color from a pigment called chlorophyll during the summertime. Leaves then store up energy and food with the help of sunlight. But during the fall season, there isn't enough sunlight for the leaves to keep up with their usual processes, so the trees absorb the nutrients from the leaves and store them in the trunk and in their roots. The leaves then begin to change and give us the beautiful foliage that we see. While these leaves are nice to look at, they're in many cases a hassle for people in the area. Leaves begin to fall and pile up around people's houses, drains, roofs, and yards. There are, however, many options available for the residents of State College. Mimi Cooper, who works for the Central County Recycling and Refuse Authority, was able to give me some beneficial uses for the fall leaves.
We have several options in a mandated community. Our municipalities do a leaf collection, so you can put your leaves curbside and they can be picked up. However, if you're more interested in using leaves to your benefit, you have a couple other options of what you can do. There are two things, and they're both basically in the same decomposer process. You can either make compost out of your leaves, or you can make something called leaf mold. If you want to make compost out of your leaves, you're going to have two different food sources, and leaves would only be one of those food sources. The other thing that you would need to add are green organics that are high in nitrogen. Your leaves are just a carbon-rich source, which is basically a sugar. So if you're going to make compost, you need to add greens and browns in a measured balance. And in the spring, you would have a compost that has nutrient capacity as well as soil amendment capacity that you can then till back into your gardens or spread on your yard or around your trees. Your other option, if you just have an overabundance of leaves, is to make something that we call leaf mold. Leaf mold is very, very simple to make. There are two basic ways that it can be done. Just rake them up and somehow contain them in a wire bin. And you simply just put your leaves in there in a neglected corner of your backyard. Every now and then go and stir the pile to introduce some air to help the decomposition process. They will break down anywhere from 6 months to 24 months depending on your conditions. Other way to make it, if you don't have that space, is just to gather up those leaves, put them in a black bin. You can slice then some holes in the black bin liner and every now and then shake that trash can bag. The difference with leaf mold and compost, when you go to add leaf mold back into your gardens, it's not going to give you the nutrient capacity, but it will be a good soil amendment. It helps any soils that have a hard time holding moisture or draining well. So it is a very good amendment. Either one is a good option, composting or leaf mold.
Thanks for tuning back in.
We'd now like to introduce a new member of our team.
Nathan Flinchbaugh is standing by at the climate wall. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be part of the Up in the Air team this year. Taking a look at what we can expect as far as climate is concerned, September 24th, our normal high this time of year is 69. We've just dropped out of the 70s into the 60s, so you can tell fall is coming here in State College. Our average low is 49, and our mean is 59. These numbers are losing about a degree every 2 days, so it's definitely that time of year. Precipitation so far this month, 2.23 inches. No snow, obviously, so far in September. Taking a look at our drought monitor, still some lingering drought across western Pennsylvania, the western third of the state. Central and eastern Pennsylvania is doing pretty well with some recent rain, but it's going to turn dry again, as I'll show you in a moment, which could bring back some drought concerns for parts of the state again. As far as the nationwide look, still some light drought in New England, sporadic drought, also some down here in the southeast. More pronounced drought in Texas, Louisiana, the south. Also very pronounced drought across the western United States, California, Nevada, and on up into Washington and Oregon, east of the Cascades, where they've been battling some fires recently. As far as what we can expect in the way of temperatures, next 8 to 14 days. This is your 8 to 14 day outlook from September 30th to October 6th. Well above normal temperatures here in State College, as well as much of the Middle Atlantic on up into New England, extending westward into the Ohio Valley. Some moderate drought across the southeast, also across the Midwest, and some light warmth across the Rocky Mountain states on into the southwestern portions of the country. We'll be near normal up in the Pacific Northwest during this 8 to 14 day period. But no, you'll notice no below normal temperatures across the entire low 48 expected during this period as we kick off the month of October. As far as precipitation, it's going to be warm here, and it's also going to be dry, which is why I'm concerned that we might bring back some potential drought problems here in the state. Dry here in the Mid-Atlantic on up into New England, moderately dry across the lower Mid-Atlantic, westward into the Ohio and Mississippi Valley. Above normal precipitation across the southeast. Also above normal precipitation in the high plains. And some good news, some above normal precipitation where there is significant drought in the Pacific Northwest. I'll send it back to the desk, Hunter and Amanda.
Thanks, Nathan.
Well, that does it for our first show of the semester.
Thanks so much for joining us this week.
As always, a big thank you goes out to all of the Penn State students who contributed to the show and to you, the viewers.
Tune in next week to catch another episode. But for now, I'm Hunter Williams.
And I'm Amanda Reynolds. See you next time, Up in the Air.